Testing 1 2 3. Test test. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Test test. Testing 1 2 3. Test test. Testing 1 2.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. We'd like to invite you down to the Hop area. We're going to get started with our breakfast at the Hop. The first race is on the track, and we are going to get started once the 2-year-old races get started. But again, we'd like to welcome you down to the Hop. We've got coffee, donuts, and some programs as we get ready to watch the 2-year-old stars on the track. So again, come on and join us. The first race is on the track. We'll get started with the third race, I believe, the fourth race is our first 2-year-old race. So we'll get started there. But again, you still got time to get down here and join us. We look forward to seeing you. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started with our first annual Breakfast at the Hop. We'd like to welcome you to Harrah's Hoosier Park. And like I said, our first Breakfast at the Hop edition. This is going to be a series that we continue throughout the month. So we want to invite you out, and we are going to do our best to have a driver and trainer come up and join us, a driver and or trainer, I should say, each week so that you can ask some questions, get to know our drivers and trainers, of course, and like I said, have a little fun while we're doing it. I'd like to introduce ourselves. Of course, we want to welcome you down to the Hop area. If you're not, coffee and donuts for everybody to enjoy. We've got some programs down here as well. We've got 8 qualifiers on tap today, 4 of which are 2-year-old events, and that's the main attraction or the reason that we are here. We'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'll start and then pass the mic. Emily Gaskin. I've been working here at Harrah's Hoosier Park for almost 14 years. As the race marketing manager and now as a race marketing specialist, and happy to help out with events like this. Thoroughly enjoy this time of year with the 2-year-olds. So when this series came about, I was very excited to take part. And then now I'm going to introduce, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Ernie Gaskin, owner, trainer, and thank you for having me.
He's being modest, so I'll go ahead and continue his introduction. Member of the Hambletonian Society, member of the Indiana Horse Racing Hall of Fame Association as well, and really hoping that this can be very conversational for those of you that are joining us. So if you have questions, thoughts, comments, please feel free to speak up because, like I said, we want to keep this conversational and fun. So if you got questions for my dad or Jacob or myself, please feel free to ask. And I kind of introduced you, but go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob Reinheimer. I worked under Emily for the last 6 years here at Harrah's Hoosier Park before stepping into the race marketing manager position this year. Grew up pretty much here at Hoosier Park, as I know very much Emily and did as well. So know the racing well here, know the backside. Love it here, and always excited for an event like this where we can kind of talk about 2-year-olds. I know Emily and I, the text threads that go on here this time of year as we're talking pedigrees and 2-year-olds out on the racetrack. Now we can just kind of talk about it instead of texting about it, and really looking forward to this event. I think this is going to be a fun month on Saturdays.
Yeah, so again, we want to invite you to come out and join us each and every Saturday throughout the month of June. And like we said, a very exciting time for those that may not know, the 2-year-olds. I always say that the harness racing industry is full of eternal optimists, right? That's why we do it. And the 2-year-old season, you're no more optimistic than this time right now, Dad. Talk to us a little bit about the feelings going into the first baby race, particularly as a trainer, how you feel going into things on a day like today.
Well, for your owners and your partners, it's an equine treasure hunt. You know, you invested some money in the fall, whether it be a homebred that you raised or a yearling that you bought at the sale. A lot of speculation, a lot of time went into kicking tires on them, and then you invest your money. And it takes, 6 months to get one of these colts or fillies ready to go. It's a long process, especially here in Indiana where it's cold. And, you're about to see what you invested in. It is, you do have to be an eternal optimist because a lot of them turn out to be just an average horse, which still can, you can get your money out on them. But we're all in it to look for that 10%, those special ones that turn out to be champions. And believe you me, they don't have to be the most expensive. They can be one of the least expensive ones. Just because someone dresses up in basketball doesn't mean he can play. So we go to the sale, we look at these yearlings, we speculate. We invest our money, and this is Christmas right now. This is the excitement time. This is when you find out what you put your money in, and hopefully you got one of those 10%ers.
Yeah, very much so. Like you said, 10%ers. And we talk a little bit about the sale. I know once we get into the 2-year-olds, we'll start talking a little bit more about pedigrees and things like that. But we talk a little bit about the sale. Jacob, I know, we talk about this being a very exciting time. The sale's also a very exciting time. Dad's saying a little bit about a treasure hunt, and I know you can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, too. You go to a yearling sale in the fall, and everybody's looking for probably something different. We all know what a good pedigree and a good looking horse is, but we can't the $100,000 yearling. So a lot of us are kind of trying to find that couple $1,000 bargain that can hopefully turn into something special. But everyone's own kind of quality animal that they're looking for. I know you guys have a point system when you're grading your yearlings. Everyone's got something different that they're looking for, and they can all kind of make it work in their own way with to kind of match their system and stuff like that. So you guys kind of touch on it. This time of year is the best time of year because anything is still possible. If you've got a horse that's coming here to qualify, anything's still possible and on the table. And until proven otherwise, you can have that optimist in you.
That's right. You think you've got the next world champion in your barn until that gate swings for that first baby race. Jacob touched on it a little bit, Dad, and I'm going to hand you the mic and let you talk about the point system. As Jacob said, just to touch on that again, the yearling sale, everybody's looking for something different. Everybody has something that they like to hang their hat on, or something that they've had success with, whether it be the physical specimen of the horse, the pedigree of the horse, or the way the horse travels. And what have you. There's a variety of things that people look for when they go to the yearling sale, but I'll let you talk a little bit about what you're looking for when you head to the yearling sale.
Well, that's a great point made by Jacob, that if you go to the auction and you're looking, you have one silver bullet, you're going to buy the one horse, you certainly do as much looking and research as you can. And at the last minute, you've got to pull a trigger. You've got to buy that horse. Most of us trainers represent a lot of that investors, our partners, ourselves, and so the auction goes fast. And so you have to have a reference on what if you look at 600 yearlings, whether it be over 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 days, you certainly have to have a reference point for when that yearling actually comes into the sale. So most trainers do have some type of a scoring system, and we have our own, and we put it all together on the page of the yearling, so we know we're prepped when that yearling comes up. And then for us, it's more about price. Our partners and I get together and we decide, how much we think we can invest on a given horse. It's hard to get your money out if you go too deep, and you're banking on that horse being a top horse. We're in it for the long term, and so we try to look for value. So having a reference point or a point system is really what it's all about. And we put ours together, and when the yearling is up on the auction block, you have about 3 minutes to make up your mind whether you're out. Some of it gets pretty easy when it goes by your price range, but if it's hanging there in your price range, now you've got to make a decision. So it's exciting as the dickens. It happens fast, and probably the repercussions of it all are in this time of year when you look back at your yearling sales and you say, "Oh, dang, why didn't I buy that one?" Or "Why didn't I buy that one? He was in my price range." So even having a reference scale, having a point system, there's still many of them that fall in your price range. So you still have to make a decision. And it's quite a game. It's fun. Once you do it, it's a lot like drafting athletes. You dig as deep as you can, find out as much as they can. Emily did a great service for me and making a point system for their family. Roger Cullifer was one who did that. Billy Houghton, a lot of the old timers would hire people to give their genetic crosses points and their family points of how their mother and father and grandmother and grandfather performed. And so having a point system is not a bad way to go. But once again, you still got to pull a trigger, and you got about 2 minutes to make up your mind.
Talked a little bit about draft system, and we say that so often, is that you're only as good as your team is. And this is the time. So we're getting ready for the first qualifier. Before we get into this fourth race and pedigrees and things like that, anybody have a question or anything that they would like to ask before we get started on pedigrees and things? Nope. Quiet group. Tony, nothing from you? That's a good question. Tony's question was, how soon do you start looking at horses before you get to the yearling sale?
The day before you get the book.
Yeah, Jacob and I always laugh too. Whenever the yearling book comes out, it's like Christmas morning. You know how kids back in the day, when that Sears catalog would come back, like sick harness racing folks like Jacob, myself, and people that are really into it, that sale catalog is equivalent to like a Sears catalog where you go in and you just circle everything you want. Like Dad said, you get started as soon as that yearling book comes out.
I know we get to about August and I'm refreshing the sales pages just about every other day to see if that sales roster is coming up, because I've usually given up on my 2-year-olds by the time sales season comes around. So I'm looking for that next batch already.
That's right. And I think that we should probably sign on. If Steve Cross is listening to this, we should probably get some sort of allocation for as much as we carry his sale links and clicks.
We
on
drive
the
his
website.
internet hits up
That's
a
right.
lot. We're pretty much half his business.
Great question. So Bob Hollywood Hayden asked Ernie's take on videos, because back in the day, Annihilator, things like that, they didn't have videos. So what's your take on videos today?
Well, again, it's another tool. It's a great way. I know a good friend of mine, Jeff Cullifer, bought a really nice trotter because he was just absolutely sold on the video, and it worked out fantastic. We look for certain things in the video for sure. If they wing their front legs, perhaps their overall gait, certain things we look at, but we just kind of give the video either a star or an average video. It doesn't have a huge bearing. It can help in the end if you're at a little bit of a tie of whether you're going to go on this horse or not. If you had a really nice video, looked very athletic, and really presented themselves well. Perhaps he didn't pace all the time, but he was just an athletic-looking individual. That can help for sure. So it's certainly just another piece, another tool. Hopefully that'll help you decide.
Yeah, I would go another. Very few times has a video swayed you to go all in on a horse, but it has oftentimes turned you off from a horse. So it maybe hasn't made you go in for a horse, but it has certainly worked in the where you're like, no, I don't want that horse because of the video, like you said, if it wings or certain things like that. To Bob's point, though, question there, and I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit here. When you said Annihilator, when they found Annihilator, he was in the backfields in LaGrange, Indiana. What do you think his video would have looked like? I remember you telling me the story about how he was trotting around farm equipment and things like that when you guys went up to see him. So tell us a little bit. I want the people to hear this story.
Well, the horse was, we didn't really know anything about him until he was a really cool individual. He had a really neat personality. You could go up to the horse and pet him, and he presented himself well as a gentleman, even being a stud colt. And then he immediately ended up in Lexington, where we break all our yearlings, and he was a perfect gentleman. And to me, that he just showed that he had a lot of class right from the get-go. As a matter of fact, by the third day we were breaking him, a couple of my assistant boys were jogging him himself with one line, and all he did was trot at the time, and being bred as a pacer, but he was just a perfect gentleman, and he presented himself, and he was very athletic, and he looked like all the Niatros, the first crops of Niatros, looked like guys that had worked out, athletes that had already worked out. Their muscle structure and their whole stature was you could tell was just a grade above. And Annihilator being one of those that looked like he had already worked out on weights and stuff, his muscle tone and his muscle affirmation. I remember his gaskin muscles above the hocks and his pectoral muscles and front chest muscles and stuff were like he'd been lifting weights. So although we didn't have a video, we knew immediately he was a gentleman and he was an athlete.
Very good. A question for you. Great question. So question was, when you're breeding horses, how do you decide what ones you're going to keep and what ones you're going to sell?
Well, I love the way Hanover Shoe Farms used to do it. They would take all the attributes and perhaps the not so good points of a stallion, and they would try to mate them with the female. Length, size, length of the legs. If you had a smaller mare with shorter legs, they tried to counterbalance that. Of course, genetics were the key back then. Why you bred and why you did, And then as far as keeping them goes, it's hard to decide that if you've bred a horse. I think you're going to lean towards trying them and keep no matter what because they're your baby. But and there's perhaps some things that you may or may not like about them. But you know, if you decided to sell them from the get-go, that's one approach, and you're not going to buy them back. That's perhaps you've got your mind made up. But you know, the market value. Perhaps you take them down there, and they're not going to bring perhaps even what you have in them. And so then you, as a breeder or the person that raised, has a serious decision to make right on the spot. Am I going to lose money on this horse right now and give him away? Or do I love this yearling enough to buy him back, take the money that I've already put into him, reinvest some more because I believe in him? And so conformation has a lot to do for me, obviously. Bone structure, you know, in front, and perhaps the way they're made a little bit behind. That has a lot for me, myself, personally. In front, I don't necessarily care if a horse toes out a little bit in front, as long as the knee and the ankle and the foot all go with it. You know, I remember Speedy Crowns. They all toed out right front, and everybody bought them like crazy. I'm thinking, God, they're going to hit that knee. They did not hit that knee. That leg went through perfectly. Now, you run into a yearling, and his ankle and his foot aren't the same. The ankle perhaps points out a little bit, and I'm talking the center median of the ankle as compared to the foot, and that horse is going to wing that real bad. And so that's something to stay away from, regardless if you're the breeder or a buyer. So conformation has a lot to do with it. Bone alignment would be the number one decision maker for me.
Great question. Great question. Any follow-up questions to that? Bob's got another one. Bob's question was, rumor has it that Billy Houghton knew that every horse in the barn wore, and he wants to know if any of that rubbed off on you. I can assure you, I'm going to answer for him, and then I'll let him answer. Yes, because I go to the barn often, and there are so many times I hear him going out with the horse. He's like, "Where's the head pole? Where's the hood? This horse wears a hood. Where's the horse's bell boots?" And my sister or my mom or Dara are back there scrambling. Look, I didn't know this horse wore bell boots, so I'm going to answer for him, but I'll let him give an answer too.
Well, certainly never as sharp as Billy. He had a photographic memory as far as I'm concerned. He could talk to the owners. He could talk to the grooms. He just knew. And probably my big thing is shoeing. That's where it's all at with me. The equipment, once you get through it, everyone should kind of remember. Once in a while, you've got to remind somebody, but the piece of equipment's there for a specific reason. And usually even if the horse someone else is taking care of the horse on a given day that doesn't take care of that horse, that's generally an industry-wide known. Everyone knows that. So, but for me, it's the shoeing, remembering the shoeing and what we changed and why and how come. You may have to backtrack on that. You may have to change again. Trotters are just amazing. Sometimes some of the things you've got to figure out. But Billy knew every horse's shoeing in the stable at the time. And that's kind of where I came in. I helped him in that matter. I served as an apprentice in the blacksmith shop. And he'd come to me and say, "Now, did we change that?" And I'd say, yes. So Billy had a photographic memory, and I do not. So Billy's unmatched in my mind. Maybe Delvin, maybe Stanley Dancer, some of those. But and there's horsemen today that are certainly that sharp. I'm sure Tony Alagna and some of them that run the big stables, they didn't get there for no reason. They keep very close track of what's going on with the equipment and with the shoeing with the horses for sure.
And I'm going to turn the table because I got a question for you, Bob, and Jacob, maybe you can give him the mic to answer. So talking about equipment, and we'll get into the 2-year-olds here in just a second. thing that from a handicapping standpoint, I try to take note of, but I don't feel that I do a good enough job is equipment changes. And I know the Meadowlands and a few places do still note equipment changes. You as a handicapper, how much of an importance is that to you? Do you still feel like equipment changes are relevant and something that tracks should be noting?
No, actually, no. I don't think equipment changes matter to a handicapper. A trainer's with a horse 24/7, 168 hours a week. I should not be able to tell him whether or not to adjust this, that, or the other. To me, a lot of it is tinkering. There's also some rules they have that if you win, check with Ernie on this. I'm not sure how it works, but you cannot then change equipment, I believe, after you win with the same equipment. I'm not sure exactly how that works. But no, the equipment board used to be a bigger deal with some of the handicappers years ago than it is now. And I also think it's a bigger deal in thoroughbred racing than it is here for us. But to me, I hate to say it, on the bottom of the screen, we used to see to me, that was a Chinese phone book.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Very much so. Very good. All right, we're going to send it up to Michael Chamberlain. He's going to give us, is he doing the post parade or is he just doing the call? Oh, he's just doing the call. Okay, sorry to put you on the spot, Michael. We'll continue. The first 2-year-old race is on the track. So we'll get started here. Like we said, very exciting times. And again, if you've got questions as they pop up, please feel free to let us know. So Jacob, we'll just run down the list here right before they get ready to go to the gate. The first horse on the docket here is Last Chance for Love. We talked about homebreds and yearlings in the sale. This one's a homebred, 2-year-old filly by Captain Midnight from the J. Hostetler barn out of a Jenna's Beach Boy mare who my dad's very familiar with, trained always and again. Here's his half-sister, first crop from Captain Midnight.
Yeah, excited to see this first crop from Captain Midnight, a stallion that came to the state with a whole lot of hype, standing at Premier Acres right now. Captain Midnight was a really good 2-year-old to start, then maybe tailed off a little bit for Tony Alanya, but 10th full from this mare, so the mare's been around for a while, as you mentioned, always again, $500,000 in earnings, almost 49-3 mark, so good pedigree on this one. Jay Hostetler also had the half-sister and Risky Reputation, who we saw in Indiana Sire Sticks action last year.
The 2 is Rocky Dude. Here was a $19,000 yearling purchase for Team Gaskin, a JK Indivenera filly out of a Western Terror mare.
Yeah, you guys should know this one well. JK Indivenera out of a Western Terror mare. Second full, the dam made nearly $250,000 in the 52 mark. So good pedigree on this one. And you got to like a JK Indivenera filly. I think the fillies really stand out for JK Indivenera. You guys got a nice price on this one at $19,000.
She had an old injury, but she had a star video, and like we said, first filly of a pretty well-producing mare.
Yeah, she had a really great score. And old injuries are old injuries. It's almost impossible sometimes to get a yearling from A to B without a cut, scrape, something. So you just need to know what's serious and what isn't. Most trainers do. I call that the scratch and dent sale. Usually hurts the breeder a lot more than the buyer. This filly had a great score, and like you said, a really nice video, and she fell in our price range, under 20,000. So here we are. We're going to find out.
She is going up against the 3. Here was a $30,000 yearling purchase, Jacob. Another one that got a good score on our system. She had a star video, but she's got some pedigree behind her. She's the second full of a mare that made $50,000, but took a mark of 50-3.
Yeah, I really love the mare. Tell Me It's Summer. She had a really limited 3-year-old campaign, but she was a winner in 6 of 10 that year. Actually won the Miss Windfall in the Go On BB for Luane Miller. Luane Miller,
okay.
Yep, for Victory Hill Farms. So she's starting to throw fulls now here, and she's got a really nice daughter of JK and Monera, but love that mare and Tell Me It's Summer.
The next is a Rockin' Image Colt out of a Park Place mare. He was a 3,000, and earlier my dad was talking about, why didn't you like this one? Why didn't you like this one? This was one I was going back trying to figure out what we didn't like. Didn't have necessarily any marks, but this is the second full from a mare that made almost 200,000.
Yeah, and Rockin' Image, still love to see him throwing some really good ones. He had the Dan Petch champion last year in Ponda Warrior. Of course, the great Rockin' Nola, Freaky Feet Pete, Little Rocket Man. Rockin' Image been really good for a long time, even with some more competition coming his way of late.
The 5 is Already Sassy. Here's a homebred for breeder Jeff Jones. This is a 2-year-old filly by Tell It Like It Is. The mare has produced. We've seen some of her siblings racing as of this week.
Yeah, Pretty and Sassy. She was actually in earlier this week, as was Tell It Like I See It. Both race out of the Tyler George barn. The dam was a good one, too. She actually finished 5th in the Breeders' Crown if you go back to 2007 at the Meadowlands in the 2-year-old filly pace, where she finished 5th behind Stylish Artist.
She's not a huge filly, but she's a hard-trying filly, Dad.
Yeah, we really like her. She's great gated. She is a little sassy, which I like in fillies. They don't take no crap, and she seems like a fighter. So we really like her. We'll see. Our best up against everybody else's best. So.
We in the 5 is a homebred for Jim Wilkinson by Check 6. This mare.
Yeah, 5th full from this mare. She hasn't produced all that much, but Check 6, he's actually kind of caught him on a little bit more. He's actually moved away from Indiana in the last couple of years, but I do think they've gotten better as they've aged, have the Check 6s after kind of a rough start from that first crop.
And the last one in here for Team Irv Miller. This is an always a virgin filly out of a Victory Hill farm pedigree, I'll call it. Miss Glitter Sparks. So the second dam is Annie Urquhart. She's actually bred by Ken Rucker in the Panhelnick group, but she was a $26,000 yearling purchase.
Yeah, another always virgin. One of the last few crops of always a virgin. And he just retired from stud a couple of years ago. But great sire, always be Mickey Colors virgin. Some Indiana greats from always a virgin. Glad to see these last few crops. He's a great stallion for the state. Really the first premier pacing stallion we had.
So the fillies are fillies and colts. I believe there's a colt in here, a colt or two in here. One colt. And the fillies and colts are lined up behind the gate. And as you'll notice, the starting gate takes them a little farther than it normally does, just to let the 2-year-olds get settled, kind of settle in, let the drivers get settled in. And we will send it up to Michael Chamberlain for the call.
Thank you, Emily. We are ready with the first of our 2-year-old races on this Saturday morning. And the field is on gate. Field of 7 in our first 2-year-old event. They are up. And a good beginning for JK's Summer Express. Last Chance for Love, and moving up, Billy Bo. In between them is Rocky Dude, and then Always a Card advances from the outside. Already Sassy is next. LA Rockin' Place is 7th and last. Going on to the first turn, and it is JK's Summer Express, who is the early leader. After that, Billy Bo Billy, as they approach the quarter-mile pole and pass there in 31 and 1. Moving to the backstretch. And JK Summer Express in front, that lead a length and a half. Billy Bo Billy is next in second. After that, Rocky Dude, Last Chance for Love, is 4th. And then another 2 lengths back to Always a Card. A further 3 to Already Sassy. And LA Rockin' Place is 7th and last, as they now come to the half-mile pole. And leading the way still, JK Summer Express posts a half in 1:02. And JK Summer Express will lead them on to the second turn. In second is Billy Bo Billy. And then after that third comes Rocky Dude. Now going to the outside is Last Chance for Love. And Last Chance for Love is moving up, and going second over out there is Always a Card. 2 further lengths to Already Sassy, and now 5 back to LA Rockin' Place, who is 7th and last. And going off stride, coming to the top of the stretch, was Billy Bo Billy, 3/4, 1:32 and 1, a 30 and 1/3 quarter in the stretch. JK Summer Express has been in front from the start and is still there. Second is Last Chance for Love, who's now going to duck down to the inside and does have a big opening there. Third is Always a Card. Coming through on the inside, Last Chance for Love. Trying to hang in is JK Summer Express. Always a Card is third. It's going to be tight coming down to the finish, but JK Summer Express does win. After that was Last Chance for Love, then Always a Card, Rocky Dude, Already Sassy, then LA Rockin' Place, and Billy Bo Billy. The time was 2 minutes and 2/5.
So the first 2-year-old race is complete at 2 minutes and 2/5. And Last Chance for Love got the job done. I'm sitting here watching, and
JK Summer Express.
JK Summer Express. Sorry, Team Burke. I'm watching the race, watching all of them. 2 minutes and 2/5 for JK Summer Express and Team Burke. Aside from one minor miscue around the last turn, looked like everybody minded their manners and did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, going to put you guys both right here on the spot now. You had 2 of them in there. They both got around there. Pretty much did everything you could have asked for in that first qualifier out. Just kind of behind those top 3 there, but have to be a happy connections right now after that first qualifier.
Yeah, if we get through it without anything bad happening, we're happy. This is the first time off the farm, if they get on the truck, get on the trailer, get over here, and nothing bad happens, we're excited. It's all new for them. Hats off to Jay and Joey. Just let them pace home a little bit, let them learn. This is what it's all about. So yeah, that's a very, very successful baby race for us.
Yeah, and you talk a little bit about that, what you're looking for out of a first qualifier. And we talked so much about leading up to the first qualifier, but you kind of touched on it there. You're really just looking for them to behave themselves and stay within themselves and not mess up, as you said.
Yeah, it's the first time off the farm. It's all new for them. They haven't seen the tractors, the flag, the tote board, any of it for us. We don't even bring them over here to train. We just show up. And if we get through it without anything bad happening and they pace home good, we're excited. They'll be much, much, much better next time that we bring them. We know that from past experiences.
And talking a little bit about that, everybody kind of has their different ways of doing things. Joey Putnam giving the thumbs up. So that has to be good. How about DeLong? Can we get a thumbs up? Yeah, get a thumbs up. All right. Looks like they were good from the drivers. A thumbs up from the drivers is always good. But talk to us a little bit about that. I know everyone has a different prep program. You said come back and qualify. How many times do you typically qualify your 2-year-olds before you're ready to drop them in the box?
At least twice, sometimes 3 times, depending on if there's an overnight available before the stake races. You see when the first sire stakes is. We're all hoping they're sire stakes horses. Some of them aren't. But it doesn't matter. You've got to prep them for it. You don't know that until you find out. And so you take that first sire stakes on the calendar date and you back it up through your schedule. And so allowing yourself a month, 2 or 3 weeks before the sire stakes, if everything went well in training with the horse and they didn't have any setbacks, that's kind of perfect. Now you've got some options. You can baby race twice. Maybe you want to go overnight. Maybe you want to baby race 3 times in an overnight. We like to have at least 3 of them before we think about putting in the sire stakes. That's for sure. So time's on our side right now. Everything went well.
And interesting angle in Indiana too. And Jacob, I know we can talk about that. We talk about this a lot. We also have the fair circuit, and some trainers opting to rather than qualify or rather than baby race, they just go right to the fairs and qualify or race a few times at the fairs, and then see what they've got and go into sire stakes or race here at Hoosier Park. But there's a lot of different angles as far as the 2-year-olds and some trainers that take different approaches.
Yeah, the fairs kind of serve as a paid qualifier almost. You don't have to be qualified to prove that you can race in the county fair race. For $3,800, those fair circuits races go for, and then they kind of have their own series leading up to those $20,000 fair finals at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. But a lot of people do go that way. We actually integrated last year to where we actually host a round of those Indiana sired fair circuit races right here at Hoosier Park. We do like to prove that you either been in a qualifier or a fair race beforehand, though, because there is going to be pari-mutuel betting on those fair races here at Hoosier Park. So we do like to still see that you've proven that you can be competitive in a race like that. But the fair circuit's certainly been a great tool. We've seen a lot of great horses come from the Indiana Fair Circuit. Just last year, Dashing Danny went from the Fair Circuit, actually qualified for the Breeders' Crown after finishing second in the Sire Stakes final. So the Fair Circuit's been a good place and a good proving ground for a lot of young horses.
And talking about Dashing Danny, we're going to start with this 5th race. And Dashing Danny started with Team Loney, and they've got the one Swanky Yankee here, which is going to be a mouthful for Michael Chamberlain. But this is a 2-year-old colt by Crescent Fashion out of a Swan for All mare, Swan Yankee. Did not sell at the sale, but Chapel Ridge Farm and Logan Loney own this one.
Yeah, second foal from a good mare in Swan Yankee. She made over $165,000. Actually raced in Indiana Sire Stakes here at Hoosier Park. Finished 5th as a 2-year-old to Andy's Lanya in the $200,000 final.
The number 2 in here is Mr. Informed. This is from Joe Yoder's barn. Here's a 2-year-old gunning by Text Me out of a mare by the name of Spoonful. She was a political briefing mare, but Text Sire, great season last year, of course. Everyone knows the name Tex Song Soprano. He Text Me.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of them, but the ones you see here at Hoosier Park have proven to be good race horses. And this one's out of a good mare, too. She made nearly $250,000, only had a mark of 2 minutes and made nearly $250,000, racing primarily in Delaware, where she won 3 $100,000 DSBF finals.
And the 3 is Swan Bon Jovi. You talk about horses, mares, and things like that. Here's a brother to the great Swandre the Giant. He was a $65,000 yearling purchase. Team Wren purchased this one from the Ruddock Stables. He's got this is the 3rd or 4th foal fifth pull from the mare.
Looks like we do have a question from the Hall of Famer, though, before
Yes.
we get to that.
Great question. Horse that best horse that you had that you didn't have as a start, or best 2-year-old that you didn't have to start with but you acquired?
Oh boy, you probably know that better than me.
Bob, do you know? Question. He said most of the horses you've had success with, you've seemed to develop, but have you had any success with ones that you haven't necessarily developed?
I'm sure there's one out there somewhere that somebody sent me that was prepped somewhere else. I've got one now this year that's a JK colt that was prepped down in Florida, and I've just trained him a couple times, and I really like him. My memory fails me in that department because we're usually filled up pretty good by this time of year, and it would. I can't think of anyone at this time.
Follow up. Good question. Brett Pelling once said that it's better to know what not to take and what horses not to take. Do you turn down horses, and do you know what not to take?
Well, that's a political question, that's for sure, and that's a great one because you certainly don't want to take on something that the owner has high hopes in, and it's a disappointment. And it's easy. There was a lot of trainers that would pin hook some yearlings, buy some yearlings, take them down to Florida and train them, and send a yearling out of Florida to other trainers. And that's where that came from Brett. I never received any of them. Really, I never had. I took one this year for the first time because I had the 3-year-old brother to it. But yeah, no, that can be a tough play right there because they're all world champions training down. In Florida, especially when we had 200 yearlings, all the owners would be there. How they doing? How they doing? How they doing? Well, they're doing great. Got in 230, they look fantastic. In 225 and 220 and 15, 10, 5, and then Emily and I call anything south of 25 is fess up time. It's fess up time for the trainer, it's fess up time for the breeder, and it's fess up time for the owner. And they are what they are. And you have to face reality right there at that point. They all train well to that point, or most of them do. And then there's only one champion, and we're in a process going through a portal to that champion. So, and a lot of fall by the waysides.
That kind of sends me into a little bit of a spiral because there are so many times I'll have a 2-year-old or a horse qualifying or racing, and I will say, well, yeah, he got a bad trip and he got this and he got this, and his answer is always, they are what they are. They are what they are. Like, I always try to make excuses for the horses, like, maybe we should try this, maybe we should change the bridle, and he always comes with, they are what they are, and it just sends me. But he's always right. He's always right, no matter how many times you change. They are what they are. These horses are going behind the gate. One I did want to mention because he talked a little bit about it, and you can confirm, Dad, you talked about trainer Jeff Qualifier in a video. TJ's top pick, was that the trotter that you were talking about? Yes. Okay. So we've got a brother to a sister to him, rather, in here, Jacob the 5. Meadowbrook Dio, he was a $22,000 yearling purchase.
Yeah. TJ's top pick was a monster 2-year-old, won the Indiana Sire Stakes Super Final at 2 for trainer Jeff Qualifier. And the mares had some good ones after him too. Meadowbrook Nola was good. She made over $70,000. Maybe not quite to TJ's top pick standards, but this is a nice filly in Meadowbrook Dio. $22,000 on a horse with a royal pedigree.
Yeah, very much so. And he was another one that we had to start video on. I thought his video looked nice as well. So he's going to go to the gate for Team Irv Miller here. Atlee Bender in the bike. He's got post 5. And want to thank Michael Chamberlain for joining us. We were talking a little bit before we send it up to him. Not a lot of action, so unfortunately it's pretty straightforward, but we do want to thank Michael Chamberlain for joining us for the baby races today, and we'll send it up to him for this call.
Thank you, Emily, and my pleasure to be here and take part in Breakfast at the Hop. And we should mention the 1-horse Swanky Yankee does have trotting hopples for this second 2-year-old qualifier of the morning, as the field is now behind the gate. and they are approaching the start. Field is on gate. They are off. Good beginning for Little Page in the center, moving right up to take over. Swan Bon Jovi and Swanky Yankee are next, and then it's Meadowbrook Dio. After that, Mr. Informed, DD's Morning Glory, Big Bad Express is seventh. And last, as they go on to the first turn, and it's Little Page leading the way on that first turn. After that comes Swan Bon Jovi, and third is Swanky Yankee with a quarter up in 32 seconds. Going off stride on the turn was Mr. Informed. Mr. Informed went on a break on that first turn. They're now on the back stretch and moving with Little Page. Has been there from the start. Little Page just over a length in front. Second is Swan Bon Jovi. Swanky Yankee third. After that, Meadowbrook Dio. And then a break of 3 lengths back to DD's Morning Glory and Big Bad Express. Mr. Informed is now back trotting, but is the distant trailer through a half mile of 1:02 3/5, 30-3 for that second quarter. They're moving on to the second turn, and Little Page has a 2.5 length lead. Second is Swan Bon Jovi, then Swanky Yankee. Next comes Meadowbrook Dio. 3 further lengths off to DD's Morning Glory and Big Bad Express. They're midway around that second turn. Little Page will lead them into the stretch. Second is Swan Bon Jovi, who's now getting closer. Then Swanky Yankee, and off the course goes Little Page. Little Page went off course right at the top of the stretch. 1:34 was the time for 3/4 of a mile. With that, now Swan Bon Jovi. On the outside is Swanky Yankee. Also trying to rally wide is Big Bad Express. And looks like Meadowbrook Dio is full of momentum. Here comes Meadowbrook Dio down the inside. On the outside is Big Bad Express. Swanky Yankee right there. It is Meadowbrook Dio and Big Bad Express. Meadowbrook Dio wins. Big Bad Express was second. Then Swanky Yankee, Swan Bon Jovi, DD's Morning Glory, Little Page, and Mr. Informed. 2:05 was the time.
2:05 was the time for that 2-year-old filly, as we just talked about, a sister to the great TJ's top pick for Team Irv Miller. Atlee Bender getting the job done. This one was a $22,000 yearling purchase, but 2:05 was the final time. And again, we touched on it on the last one, Dad, but it looked like, for the most part, everybody, for the most part, minded their manners and just got busy coming down the lane.
Paces are easy. Trotters, that's another story, and that was a nice looking bunch. They all finished together. Just one miscue there. They all look good gated, no hiking, carrying on. That was a nice bunch.
Very nice group. Jacob, talking a little bit about Meadowbrook Dio, Team Irv Miller getting the job done there. They're another one of those big contingents in the Indiana Sire Stakes, and they've always come with a lot of horses to qualify.
Yeah, Irv Miller, they've always been just so rock solid. We talked about Andy Zolani a little bit. You go back to her, out of the Irv Miller barn last year, number of star, really nice 2-year-old trotters, pacers. They can do it with it all. They obviously go to the sale with a big budget, and they'd make the most of it because they return a lot of money in Indiana Sire Stakes the next year. Just one of the very, very top barns, especially in Sire Stakes action.
And we'll talk a little bit about talking about Irv Miller and Atlee Bender. Of course, works very closely, son-in-law to Irv Miller. But talk to us a little bit, Dad, about how important it is to talk to the drivers after these races, and if you have to make any adjustments. Obviously, Atlee very familiar with all these 2-year-olds as they go to post.
Yeah, it's huge. Your driver's the next step, the next key. He sees things out there when the gas pedals to the floor that you don't see training. That's for darn sure. So that relationship with the driver is everything. Most trainers are right there to get the info they're looking for when the driver gets off. Sometimes they're good, everything's set, and other things, a lot of times it's hey, maybe we'll try this. The horse was doing this, let's change this. So there's always some fine tuning and adjustments that the drivers bring to the table that are so important.
And Jacob, we oftentimes talk about this almost as the same, that the trainers are trying to find the right drivers for the horses. The drivers are trying to weed their way through and find their stakes horses for the season.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are going to be committed to one of these top horses pretty much throughout the entirety of the summer on Indiana Sire Stakes. And if you pick the wrong one, that's kind of a tough pill to swallow towards the end of the year when you have $200,000 on the line in the Sire Stakes Super Final. But it's a big challenge, especially for a guy like Trace Teacher, who drives for a number of top stables, whether it be Irv Miller, Tyler George. He's got to pick between some of these horses. And I'm sure some of these guys will say they picked wrong sometimes, but I'm sure when you pick the right one, it's got to be a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, and as I go back there and talk to the guys, talk to them about races that they want to win and things like that. Those Sire Stakes finals, we have a lot of Grand Circuit races here, and those Sire Stakes finals are still hold their glory.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to how much time you have to put into Sire Stakes. It's 6 legs for 2-year-olds, 8 for 3-year-olds, and then to still have one that's good from May for a 3-year-old all the way to October, and then July to October for a 2-year-old. It's really just a really strong feeling. You've had to earn your way into that Sire Stakes final, and to be the one on top at the end, such a great feeling, and I think that's what every trainer on that backside shoots for.
Question from Bob Hayden. Hambletonian is 8 weeks from today. You won the Hambletonian with Speed Bowl. How tough was it to keep Speed Bowl trotting from a day like today?
Only Hayden can dig these stories out of the archives, because
we're going to invite him to every breakfast with the babies just for this fact. He carries his team for Jacob and I. We're just added commentary, and this is what we pay Bob the big bucks.
The great story was him and Jazz Cosmos were going at it, and the Beacon course a week before the Hambletonian, Speed Bowl made a break. And we were in the blacksmith shop Monday morning before the Hambletonian. Tommy Houghton and I, Billy, the whole crew. And Tommy was trying to tell us what the horse was doing, why he made a break. And we came to the conclusion that he was slipping a little bit. He had half rounds on the front, even though with borium or whatnot. So it was my brain surgeon idea that we go with full swedges. We actually ended up shoeing Speed Bowl like a pacer. He had a full swedge bar shoe in front with borium and a half swedge with borium behind. And the rest is history. Now, Tommy was out there driving, so I'm sure he dispelled his nerves behind the gate. I was on the sidelines practically holding hands with Billy Houghton and Max Hemp and not knowing what to expect. I mean, you make a shoe and change. The horse did train fantastic on Wednesday. I trained him. I was really, really happy with him. But there you go. You change something a week before the biggest race in the world. And to say my nerves were out my ears was being kind, because you just never know. And it's one of those fairy tale stories, because it worked out and he won the Hambletonian.
Very good. Very good. Okay. The 6th race is on the track, and we will get started here. The one horse is Hope You Like the Show. Now, Jacob, this is one I remember looking at the sale, and he was quite a specimen, and seeing him out on the track, it looks like he has filled into a great horse. He was a $100,000 yearling purchase for Team Burke, a JK Innovenera colt out of a well-said mare, Don't Forget.
Yeah, I just went by one of those really classic-looking J.K. Innovenera's, big, strong horse. J.K. Innovenera himself was huge, winner of the Dan Patch here. But this one out of a good family, second foal from a mare that's a half-sister to Reflect With Me, made over $750,000, and actually set the track record here for a little
Nadia
bit,
LaBelle.
148-2 in the Nadia LaBelle.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it. This one, second dam, is Lucy's Pearl, which, of course, Burke has had success with, Luz Pearlman and the like. And we talked about it. I believe she was Broodmare of the Year this year.
Yeah, Luz Pearlman, I think My Girl EJ was the other one.
Correct.
Who she was Breeders' Crown champion here at Hoosier Park last year. It's a great mare.
It's, and we talked about the yearling, so I have to believe when Ron Burke saw this pedigree, it was one he kind of circled, and obviously had to go out a little bit, paid $100,000 for him. But like I said, this is probably one he went to the sale to buy.
Yeah, Ron Burke trained J.K. Innovenera. I think he won the North America Cup with J.K. Innovenera. So he certainly bought in on his horses here. You see Noblesville, a 3-year-old, one of the top 3-year-olds in the state, J.K. Innovenera. So Ron Burke likes the J.K.s and certainly can't dislike this one with the pedigree he has.
Yeah, we've actually got 3 JKs in here. The 2 is a JK as well, out of a Roll with Joe mare for Team Irv Miller.
Yeah, first foal from a Roll with Joe mare here, another J.K. Innovenera. One of those they didn't buy at the sale before going to the Irv Miller barn, but certainly good pedigree behind him. Expect some good things here.
The 3 we'll just skip on over. No, I'm just kidding. This is a JK End of an Era out of a Better's Delight mare. It was a $17,000 purchase for Team Gaskin. And this is one of those that he was a 444, had a great video, kind of checked all the boxes, and the owners went out and got him.
Yeah, and you jumped in on him, which we'll see what how good a move that was. He was a decent colt. He training down. He lacked the want tos a little bit, what I call the killer instinct. But a lot of times, great gated colt didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but you're just always looking for those ones that really, really want to have that killer instinct and want to. He just lacked that, as you know. But he's starting to get his interest here lately. I would have to say he's done much better. We think when he gets in the field of horses, perhaps he's going to perk up a little bit. So we'll see.
Here's to hoping. We'll turn the mic off for the sake of everybody's ears in the show. The 4, Jacob, will just touch quickly on the 4 and the 5 here. The 4 is a Rock and Image colt out of a Roll with Joe Mare. He was a $16,000 yearling purchase from Bluebird Meadows.
Yeah, and the mare was a good mare. She made over $160,000, made $100,000 her 4-year-old year. She was an open mare over at Northfield Park.
The 5 is Welk Blue Chip. He was sold at Lexington. He was a $40,000. So he's Indiana and Kentucky eligible out of a Captain Treacherous mare for Team Wren.
Yeah, second full here out of a Captain Treacherous mare. Had to imagine that drew some big attention. Then we round things out with the far outside horse and Derby Up. An Ohio bred here by Lather Up. Lather Up, one of the fastest horses I've ever seen here. Won the Dan Patch in 147-2. 14 Teague. This one a homebred out of a mare that made $171,000 and was a Buckeye Stallion Series champ.
Field for our next qualifier is in behind the gate. A field of 6. And the field is on gate. They are off. Good beginning for Welk Blue Chip, who is up to take the lead. Big Bad Moses. Hope you like the show at the inside. Then facing the Giants, Derby Up, and Delightful End is the early trailer. On to the first turn, and Welk Blue Chip is the leader. Welk Blue Chip, just over a length on top of Big Bad Moses, who is second. Then comes Hope You Like the Show in third. They pass the quarter in 31-1. After that, fourth is Facing the Giants. Derby Up fifth, and the trailer is still Delightful End as they straighten away on the back stretch. Welk Blue Chip in front. Second is Big Bad Moses. Then a length and a half third comes Hope You Like the Show. Facing the Giants is fourth, with Derby Up and Delightful End as they approach the half-mile mark. It is Welk Blue Chip. He has been there from the start, was sent right out by Peter Wren, and will stay there through the half in a minute 2 and 3. 31-2 for the second quarter, and they're moving on to the second turn. Welk Blue Chip is the leader. After that, Big Bad Moses. Hope You Like the Show is third, followed by Facing the Giants, Derby Up, and Delightful End as they are now midway around that second turn. Welk Blue Chip hits a 2-length lead now. Second is a Big Bad Moses, followed by Hope You Like the Show. Then Facing the Giants, Derby Up is moving to the outside. Delightful End the trailer through 3/4 in 133-2. In the stretch, it's still Welk Blue Chip with the lead. Welk Blue Chip 2 lengths in front. Hope You Like the Show closing down the outside. Here comes Big Bad Moses, who's parting the pair. Big Bad Moses in between horses. Hope You Like the Show on the outside. It is Hope You Like the Show and Big Bad Moses. Big Bad Moses, Hope You Like the Show. Hope You Like the Show was the winner. Big Bad Moses second, with Welk Blue Chip Facing the Giants, Derby Up, and then Delightful End. 2:01-1 was the time.
Another winner for Team Burke. Hope You Like the Show. Gets the job done in 2:01-1. looked like he did everything that he was supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing, especially with Burke, the number of horses he has. They train, they've probably gone some qualifiers pretty much unofficially in the Burke barn. So they're ready to go right when they drop in the box professional. And that certainly looked to be the case with Hope You Like the Show.
Well, Blue Chip did all the heavy lifting on the front, though, and really didn't give it up there at the end. So I have to believe that his connections are probably pretty proud of his effort there tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of what you're looking for. It's all about education and effort, right? You want to see a horse that's engaged and involved, and that's what you're looking for here with the 2-year-old. You're not necessarily looking for flash and speed, but hopefully they're into it and kind of paying attention to what they're doing.
I kind of thought the same about Big Bad Moses. He was one of those horses that really kind of caught my eye on the track. Looked like he was very much engaged, and paced up through there with all of them. So that's another one that, I think you certainly want to keep your eye on.
Yeah, really nice looking Rockin' Image too. Jamie and Ricky McCumber have had a lot of luck with Rockin' Images, and there's not a sire who can throw some better looking horses than Rockin' Image. A good looking Rockin' Image will look better than just about any horse in the state.
Yeah, very much so. As you said, Rockin' Image just continues to throw those champions. Although he was, and I don't want to say dismissed at the sale, but there were quite a few, I'll say, bargains for Rockin' Image.
I think that's one of those things where we've seen Tell It Like It Is really take a hold now in the state. He had kind of just a few. I think there were only 9 in the Hoosier Classic that Tell It Like It Is have in that sale last year. So they were kind of a hot commodity. And then J.K. Innovaneras had a huge kind of resurgence here as a 2-year-old stallion, especially with that $7,500 breeding fee for J.K. Innovanera, and he's proven to be worth it right now.
On the pacing side of things in the state of Indiana, it seems, there's not as much depth as there is on the trotting side.
Yeah, it's kind of flip-flopped to where it was, especially as we lost the horse Like Always a Virgin. But we've got J.K. Innovanera, Tell It Like It Is, Rockin' Image. They've been kind of the kings of the mountain here of late. Going to be interested to see how Captain Midnight will kind of fare into that.
Bob? Okay. Yeah, great question there, and something certainly to take into consideration as you're talking about babies. And Bob's question was, sometimes your talent isn't necessarily as important as the year you were born. Talking a little bit about Napolitano and Mac LaBelle.
Napolitano was one of the last great sons of Super Bowl. A really good mare, Noble Sarah. But had to take on Mac LaBelle. We did finally get him in Lexington at the end of the year, but it was and they had to trot last score in 26 seconds flat. But yeah, we were in Mac's shadow all year, that's for sure. And I always felt like Napolitano was a great horse. So yeah, that happens to horses every year. Especially if there's a dominant a colt born that year. The year of Annihilator, there were 5 or 6 of those competitors that went and stood stallion in other states: Pershing Square, Broadway Express, chairman of the board, blah blah blah. So yeah, that was a bad year to be born. So yeah, that happens, Bob.
Follow up? Yes. The year Billy Houghton was killed was the year Peace Corps was born, so he never got to see Peace Corps. That would have been an unbelievable time for him.
Yeah, what a mare. That was, her family was really stressed out in the breeding ranks, worth being and worth seeing. Both didn't have many foals. They were in the Hambletonian, her mother and grandmother, but she was the first crop of Baltic Speed, and Tommy Houghton and I did everything we could to not train her. Lou had bought a no nukes colt that he was going to give to Charlie Sylvester, and we were like, well, that's crazy. Why don't you give us a pacing colt, give Charlie Peace Corps? So we tried like the Dickens to give her away, and she's one of the greatest mares, obviously, that I ever sat behind. We raced her barefooted all through the Midwest. She needed no weight. She was a natural, great competitor. And there you go. Once again, there were a couple trotting fillies that had to race in her shadow that were great mares in themselves. But yeah, that was a great mare.
We see it a lot of times here, Jacob, particularly talking about, 2-year-olds and things like that. For instance, a Ponda title last year, just so dominant. And I don't want to say it wasn't that, deep group of 2-year-old trotting fillies, but we see Agent of Fortune this year. But there's so many times that we'll see one dominant horse and you'll see some really great horses come out of there, but you maybe just didn't pay that much attention or they didn't get as many accolades as they should have because there's one dominant horse.
Yeah, Skyway Page is the one who kind of had to chase Ponda title all the way last year. I think she got Ponda title once at one point towards the end of the year, but ends up finishing second in the super final to a horse like Ponda title. And sometimes you just run into one of those horses, and it's unfortunate where you can have one of the best horses you've ever had, and unfortunately someone just has one better. But it's always a lot of fun when you have a good one regardless. You just hope it's kind of a year where you can be the one on top.
Yeah, like Bob said, sometimes it's not as important as how talented you are as what year you're born. You got to get, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
I mean, you run into a year last year like we had Confederate. I mean, none of those 3-year-old colt paces were going to be able to go with Confederate, and they might have been really nice horses that could have made $1 million in another year, but you're just not going to beat a horse like that.
Yeah, very much so. I just saw a sister to Confederate one for Diamond Creek just the other day, so hats off to them. So we've got the 7th race on the track. We're going to switch over to the trot again. We're going to start with the 1, and we've got Starlet Frankenstein. Another one for Team Burke. Here's a 2-year-old colt by Swan for All. He was a $12,000 yearling purchase out of a Southwind Frank mare. And I got to give a shout out to my buddy Frank Baldacchino, who I know is tuning in today. Best of luck here with the 1.
Yeah, good pedigree here. Swan for All. He's been kind of the king of Indiana for several years now. Getting more competition now on the trotting side with help is on the way. Don't let him. We see his first crop in this race. But Southwind Frank, maybe not having a whole lot of success as a stallion, but maybe he'll be a nice broodmare sire in a situation like this.
Yeah, that was another one there for Team Burke. So obviously this one goes back. We're taking a look here at the 2, a very pretty son of Don't Let Him. You talk about Don't Let Him, the first crop here. He had a good day at the fair, Converse Fair, both Wednesday and Thursday, I believe, or Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, it was Wednesday, Thursday this week at the fairs. First crop of Don't Let Him, as we mentioned. I'm really excited about this crop. This was one of them where I really, really liked the yearlings at the sale last fall. I was kind of surprised they didn't sell a little bit better than they did. Don't Let Him, a horse that had a lot of speed, actually had the track record here at Hoosier Park for a while when he won the Carl Erskine. A lot of speed, but he could go off stride. He is kind of a little bit of a head case. I do think that's kind of what I heard a little bit about his yearlings to this point, too. A lot of speed, but they can be a little cantankerous.
The 3 is Ponda Bugatti. Here was a $115,000 yearling purchase. Swan for All out of a Muscle Hill mare for Ponda Acres.
Yeah, good pedigree on this one. We saw Ponda Gray. She was one of the top 2-year-old filly trotters last year, made over $64,000 for trainer Irv Miller. The Dam, she's a half-sister to an earner of over $600,000 in possessed fashion.
The 4 is Great Flick. Another by Text Me out of a Cadabra mare for Joe Yoder, trains and owns.
Out of a mare that made almost $400,000, and I went and looked at her in Pathway. She kind of made that $400,000 the hard way. Just a lot of opens and conditioner races, and did kind of stacked it up over time as a half-sister to one we've seen here at Hoosier Park and Flick and Do, who was the winner just a couple weeks ago.
$50 tab was one I went back and looked at in the yearling sale book. He's a colt by $50 bill out of a Mr. Cantab mare, but a $32,500 purchase price for Team McCumber. This is another one that I have to believe they obviously saw something they liked about this one and decided this is the one they were getting. Of course, Jamie McCumber, no stranger to success with young trotters with the likes of Dover in Motion.
Yeah, really excited to see this first crop of $50 bill as well. Cool to see an Indiana bred now standing in the state of Indiana, having his first crop. He is a Breeders' Crown champion right here at Hoosier Park in 2017. The Dam, she hasn't had much success as a broodmare yet, but she has a good mare in her own right. She qualified for the Indiana Sire Stakes Super Final, the year Satin Dancer won in 2017.
And Dad, you talked a little bit. We talked a little bit about $50 bill. They were good-looking specimens, and I know you've got a few that you're training, and seem like they've got great attitudes for his first crop.
Yeah, we got one colt that I like him. They had a lot of characteristics that I think a lot of the trainers really liked. They obviously trotted well on videos and stuff, but they scored good. They were wide under their jowls. They stood well. They had kind of nice long legs, a lot of them. I know John Bernard went after him hard. I know Tony Alagna is training quite a few of them. I'll be anxious to see how that all works out. But and it's interesting. Jacob touched on a great point. we normally, our stallions come from somewhere else, from outside of the state. Two are regenerated within, and the fact that they had great success here and they stand stallion here, and then how do you receive their first crop? Are you looking to go with a stallion that's from out of state, or a $50 bill? So I think 50 was received well, and I hope he does well. I hope their offspring does well, because they really looked the part at the sale.
And another one, the other two we've got in here is the 6 Flight to Broadway for Team Loney. This is a really well-bred colt. He's a brother to one that made $230,000. Jacob, he was a $9,500 yearling purchase.
Yeah, from the second crop of Pilot Discretion. Pilot Discretion, not a stallion who got a lot of mares, but I think he's making the most of it. Been very high percentage with the ones he has had. Been a big fan of Pilot Discretion as a stallion.
And the 7 is a homebred.
Field in behind the gate for this 2-year-old qualifier. Field of 7. They are up. And a breaker at the start was Ponda Bugatti. Ponda Bugatti went off stride at the beginning. Starlet Frankenstein is out for the lead. Great Flick is next with $50 tab and All We Wanted. Next comes Flight to Broadway, then Poppleton to the inside, and back trotting but trailing is Ponda Bugatti. They're on the first turn, and it is Starlit Frankenstein, who's got a 3.5 length lead. Quarters up in 31-3. Starlit Frankenstein with the initiative here now opens it out to 5. Next comes Great Flick, and a further 4 lengths back to $50 tab. Another 2.5 to All We Wanted, 2 further lengths to Flight to Broadway, and then Poppleton and Ponda Bugatti. Quite a spread out bunch as they approach the half mile, and Starlit Frankenstein still holds on to a 4-length advantage. Second is Great Flick as they hit the half in 1:01 a 30-second second quarter. It's Starlit Frankenstein that lead down to 3.5. Great Flick is getting closer and also moving up from third, $50 tab. There's a gap of 5 then to All We Wanted with Flight to Broadway. After that, Poppleton and Ponda Bugatti. As they move around the turn, Starlit Frankenstein opening up that lead once again. It's back out to 5, and a going off stride was Great Flick. Great Flick off stride at the top of the stretch. 3 quarters, 1:31-3, another 30-second quarter for Starlit Frankenstein, who's got a 7-length lead. $50 tab is second, another 8 back to Poppleton, who's moving up on the outside third. Starlit Frankenstein, though, is in front with 100 yards to go, has it by 6. It is Starlit Frankenstein, and Starlit Frankenstein is gone. Goodbye. Starlit Frankenstein's going to win here by about 7. $50 tab is second, then Poppleton, All We Wanted, Ponda Bugatti, Flight to Broadway, and Great Flick, 2 minutes and 2/5.
Another winner for Team Burke. Talking a little bit here after the race finished. Team Burke looks stacked for the season. That's a nice colt. Starlit Frankenstein for Team Burke, a 2-year colt by Swan for All.
Yeah, we saw the other 2-year-old trot going 2:05. Here's one that rolls in 2 minutes and 2/5 and did it convincingly, did it professionally. Pretty much all you could ask for a first qualifier there, for one that certainly looks the part at just the $12,000 price tag as well.
Yeah, and as we said, out of that Southwind Frank mare, who of course Burke had all the success with there. So nice pluck out of the yearling still there. But again, we talk a little bit about look professional and things like that. Burke's training on track. So as you were talking, Dad, some of these horses first time here, first time seeing flags and things like that. For the Burke Brigade, these horses, this is just another day at the office for them.
Well, nobody does any better job of getting a yearling ready than Ron Burke, from start to finish. And yeah, the fact that they're here certainly doesn't hurt, but keeping knowledge of the track conditions and them seeing everything. And it's just the fact that if Ronnie gets his hands on a good horse, the rest is history.
Yeah, Jacob, we were talking a little bit. I have to believe that we'll be hearing about Starlet Frankenstein for hopefully the summer.
Yeah, and with that said, though, I do want to touch on $50 tab. I thought
Yeah.
he was a really impressive second place effort there in that qualifier for Team McCumber. Jamie McCumber was the assistant trainer for Ron Burke for many years, helped get some of those great Indiana champions ready for Burke and go on BB, as well as Hanover. So she certainly looks like she's got a good one there in $50 tab as well.
And Bob, good question and good point, as I know you've got some thoughts on that. The question was repeat, the Swedes have won measuring stick. So yes, they've won a number of Hambletonians. They've got the measuring stick at the yearling sale. What are they doing that we're not doing, or some of us are not doing?
Well, it came through Team Nordine. Obviously, Jimmy Tacker worked for Soren Nordine, and that was their mainstay. They had a cane that had a hand measure in it, and the horse had to be an inch longer than they were tall, or they wouldn't even look at him. Doesn't matter how expensive or inexpensive they were. It was all about conformation once again, and it was about body length. Obviously, same with Peace Corps, to get back to her. She was 2 inches longer. She broke out with her front legs, but that didn't matter because she was so long. The conformation of them and the characteristic of body length. So the Europeans put a lot of weight in the measurement of the horse as far as body length versus height. And obviously they're not wrong.
Question on training. Baltic Speed didn't win because he was overtrained in the week. Have you had experience with that? Have you ever inadvertently done that? And what's the tax on that?
No, I don't know. That I'd have to see the book. Did they scope the horse? Was there anything wrong with him? Blah 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 blah. Before I made that decision, for sure that Teddy made. Soren did have a characteristic of training horses fairly stiff. So did Gene Regal. So did some other trainers. Houghton and them would train a horse 40-20 in between, much like Ron Burke. But there were trainers that would go in 40-10, 40-8 in between, and that was always discretionary to a lot of different trainers. I'm not sure about that. Certain horses seem to take that work better than others. We kind of stay in the middle of the road with what we learned from Houghton, and so I don't think I've ever accused myself of overtraining one. It's the analysis of a bad race. Is there a reason? Did we scope them? Did they bleed? Did they tie up? Were they a little off somewhere that you weren't aware of, and so on and so forth. So I'd have to have all of those factors in before I made that decision.
Good points. Good points there. And especially as we're talking about 2-year-olds, the last 2-year-old race is coming onto the track for the day. And before we get into this, again, want to thank everybody for joining us and remind you that each and every Saturday we'll be out here talking about the 2-year-old events, and we'll have coffee and donuts. And so I want to invite you to come out the next 2 Saturdays. And we'll do our very best to have a driver or trainer up here to do some commentary. I want to thank you, Dad, for being up here. Of course, thank Michael Chamberlain, our food and beverage staff, and everybody that joined us today. So as we get ready for this last race, we're going to kick it off again. We've got a field of 6, and up first is a Rocket Image colt from Team Irv Miller. Here was a $21,000 yearling purchase from the in-law stable out of a Mantacular mare, Jacob. Again, $21,000 yearling.
Yeah, I really love this family. The Dam, she's a half sister of the great Shell Escape, winner of $1.1 million, 2-time Breeders' Crown champ. And then this gelding here, he's actually half brother to Watch What My Feet Do, earner of nearly $200,000.
The 2 odds on outlier. This is a 2-year-old colt by Sweet Lou, one of 2 by Sweet Lou in the field. This one out of a Captain Treacherous mare. Odds on Orlando.
Yeah, the mare, she is actually the Massachusetts Massachusetts Sire Stakes champ at 2 for Tony Alani in 2019, made over $100,000. Just the second foal here by the Great Sweet Lou.
The 3 is Imperial Lou. Here's a homebred son of Sweet Lou out of an Indiana Sire Stakes winner, Rockin' Hot Lady. Of course, success. You've had success with her. You trained the dam, and now this colt. What are we looking for here with Imperial Lou?
He's a little hyper guy. Not little, he's big. He's a little bit hyper. So John's just going to go easy with him for sure. He's a really nice colt. I really like him. He trained well all winter. Big gated. He's very willing, that's for sure. It was a nice cross. I was more interested in the cross. Shelby's mare, made 100,000 here in Indiana, rocking Ambridge mare with a record of 51, a big mare, and she chose to go to Pennsylvania. She loves Sweet Lou, absolutely loved the sire, and so I was very interested in the cross, and it turned out great. This is a really nice looking colt, so hoping the best.
I do want to follow up on that. When you have a horse, especially a 2-year-old that can be a little bit hot early, how important are these first couple qualifiers to get him to relax in a race, to kind of settle in? Because I feel like once you get one that's a little bit hot, if they kind of get away with it early, they can be really hard to rein in from there.
That's a great point, Jacob. It's so important. I love guys like Joey Putnam, John DeLong, even Trace. I mean, they're just the best at it. Ricky McCumber's great with yearlings. And it's so important with one that is a little stressed out, a little wanting to be excited, perhaps a little more aggressive than you'd like. It's so important to just chill them out in the first few starts and try to teach them. And most of them have brains above their ambitions. And so if you show them the right way, they're creatures of habit. It works out a lot of times for you. So that's a great point. Very important that you do that the first few starts.
Is it a little bit easier to get one to calm down early on than it is to get one to care if you have one that's a little bit lazy and kind of doesn't get involved, or can you kind of trick them into it as well?
The ones that don't care, that's a tough one. Those horses, maybe you train them a little harder. You put them in situations where you try to teach them they got to pass and situations like that. For me, I'd rather have one that's a little more aggressive and try to calm him down than it is to try to teach one to pass that doesn't want to.
Very much so. The next up is a filly, a yearling, $29,000 Lexington Select yearling purchase. This is a JK Indivenera filly out of a Well Said mare that I believe Brian Brown trained.
Yeah, I really love a Well Said mare. He's been a great broodmare sire, and she was a good filly for trainer Brian Brown, a winner of the Bluegrass in 152-2, made over $150,000.
For Team George is a horse that we're very familiar with, a brother to the great Soaring Now. This is a 2-year-old colt by Luck Be With You for Team George. Of course, Team George success with a Luck Be With You.
Yeah, and you touch on Soaring Now. They're a winner of over $500,000. Won the Jenna's Beach Boy here at Hoosier Park. Took a mark of 48-1. One of the most physically impressive horses I've seen in person is Soaring Now. Excited to see this one a bargain price at $16,000.
One thing I thank both you for this morning. You're doing a great job. And I think one of the points that's become apparent here in all of this, and will through the month of June, is how much better the breeders are doing with their mares. I mean, a mare that's got $100,000 made and did well with records of 53 or 2 is the common now. And it certainly wasn't like that when we started. So the breeders, the Indiana breeders, need a huge shout out. These mares that they're breeding now, it's just fantastic.
Very much so. And we didn't get a touch on that, but I'm sure we may have you back and talk a little bit about the Indiana program and the breed development program as far as the Indiana is concerned. But yes, breeding horses that can go on and do great things. Of course, this weekend, watching some Indiana sired horses, stat that in the North America Cup. Of course, want to wish Team Miller the best of luck there. Horses are coming to the gate. We'll send it up to Michael Chamberlain and close this out after this race.
Our last qualifier of the morning, Jordan Ross drives number 1, Night Warrior. Kyle Wilfong drives number 6, Unhinged Impulso. They are off. And it's a good beginning for Odds On Outlier. Some More Soaring moves up, and Some More Soaring now will take the lead. Odds On Outlier, followed by Heart Song. Next is Imperial Lou, then Unhinged Impulso, And last of the 6 is Night Warrior, moving on to turn number 1. Some More Soaring is in front. Some More Soaring has it a length by the quarter in 30 4/5. Make that lead 2 lengths now. Back in second, Odds On Outlier, Heart Song, another 2 lengths back in third. After that is Imperial Lou, then Unhinged Impulso, and 4 more to the trailer, Night Warrior. Moving up the backstretch, Some More Soaring is in front, thereby 2 lengths still. After that, Odds On Outlier, then Heart Song is third. Next comes Imperial Lou with Unhinged Impulso, and now 7 back to Night Warrior with a half mile remaining. The opening half, 1 minute and a 1/5. The lead is now 3 for Some More Soaring. Some More Soaring leads the way onto the second turn. Odds On Outlier is second. Heart Song is third, with Imperial Lou and Unhinged Impulso. Night Warrior now losing touch with the rest as they move around this second turn, but it is Some More Soaring. Getting closer is Odds On Outlier as they move to the top of the stretch. 3/4 in 1:30 flat. Off the turn, Some More Soaring is in front of Odds On Outlier. Odds On Outlier does have an avenue up the inside, though, and Some More Soaring trying to get that lead reestablished to 2.5. Odds On Outlier, then on the outside, Imperial Lou. Some More Soaring, Odds On Outlier trying to rally through on the inside. Some More Soaring is holding on. Gamely, Some More Soaring has won. Odds On Outlier, then Unhinged Impulso, Imperial Lou, Heart Song, and Night Warrior was 6th. The time is 1:57 2.
A winner for Team George there, and some more soaring. 2-year-old colt by Luck Be With You, getting the job done in 1:57 2. Fastest effort of the day.
Yeah, just a really, really impressive effort there. And I really thought that whole group of 2-year-olds that kind of held or was up front held their own there in that spot. Going 57 first start out of the gate here. Big time effort by all those horses. I think we've got some happy connections here. Imperial Lou, good mile there by him.
Yeah, like you said, 57 2, have to be happy with that.
Yeah, anytime a horse paces a big last half, doesn't matter if second, third, fourth, they get around there, do what you expected, and finish up real strong like that. That's fantastic.
So again, want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is the first of a number of these series. Each and every Saturday throughout the month of June, we'll be here. Again, want to thank Michael Chamberlain, our food and beverage team, for providing the coffee and donuts. Bob Hayden for providing the questions for us, and of course, everyone that tuned in online.
Yeah, really looking forward to the series. It's been a great start. Appreciate everyone that kind of filtered through this morning. Looking forward to doing it again, and then encourage you to come back tonight. We do have 12 races on action tonight. For getting started a little bit later than our usual post time, 7:20 tonight, due to the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
Belmont
so
today.
Big day all day long here at Hoosier Park. Encourage you to stick around and enjoy a great day of racing.